Craiova, a follower of ancient Palandava, was first attested in 1475. Many leaders of Wallachia came from the Craiovesti family, and Bania became the second most important political institution of the country after the royalty. The most famous name linked forever with this city is Michael the Brave. A dream, an astonishingly daring dream, was born here. In a time when the whole people was subdued to the great empires of that period, an aspiration appeared in this place, and the people looked up at the stars, while their ideal inspired everybody. Michael the Brave started from here and pursued his aspirations of changing the impossible into reality. The Great Union became a real event we read in history books today. In the centuries that followed, Craiova seemed to change into a battlefield, as here, the main protagonists of history displayed their forces. Those who wish to rediscover the old stories of the past can find in the Museum of Oltenia a reliable partner. Life flourished on these realms in times forgotten. Paleolithic vestiges have been discovered here, and the Neolithic painted pottery found at Kircha rival the polychrome pottery of the Aegean Anatolian Neolithic. The anthropomorphous and zoomorphous motifs are typical for the Sesklo and Domini cultures of the Balkan Peninsula. The history department comprises many artifacts, remaking the meandering road of history with documents and proofs coming from the Neolithic up to the 19th century. A vanished world comes to life in the halls of this department with all its aspects. History here is not something gone and dull. It lives spectacularly under the eyes of the third millennium visitor. Another spiritual cradle is St. Dumitru Cathedral, whose architecture is mainly Byzantine. It had a troubled history. In fact, its destiny and personality were periodically rewritten by the great personalities of the epoch. Its founder was Matei Basarab in 1653. Then it underwent many changes, being restored by the Boyars in the 18th century and by the French architect André Lecomte de Mouy in 19th century, being supported by King Charles and Queen Elizabeth. Saint Dumitru is the protector of the city, being present on the emblem of the settlement too. The church also hosts Saint Tatiana's relics. Prayers get the holy scent of incense, myrrh and unctions inside its walls, praising to the heaven. Its painting was made by great masters, among them the French artists Bourrier and Manipault, being finished in 1933. From the Metropolitan Cathedral, we head towards Madonna Dudu Church, whose patrons are Saint Pantaleon and the Assumption of the Virgin. It was built in 1758 on the spot of an old wooden church by Constantin Fortescu and Haji Ion Gheorghe. Its destiny was not spared of dramatism either, being restored in 1842 and pulled down in 1913. What we see today is the result of the architectural plans of Ion Trajanescu and Sterie Beko in 1929, observing the rigors of the Neo-Byzantine style. Beyond history, though, legend supports the spiritual foundations of the establishment. Madonna Dudu is a church Oltenia takes pride in. Once there was here a wooden icon. Its presence changed the church into a real pilgrimage site, being one of the two icons painted by the Apostle Luke himself. In the 19th century, Craiova harmonized its architectural townscape with the specific trends of the Occident, especially with the typical forms of eclecticism. A practical application of these principles can be admired today in Jean Mihail's palace, the present-day art museum, made by the French architect Paul Gauthier, at the special request of one of the wealthiest Romanians, Constantin Mihail, and built between 1899 and 1907. The palace is telling us a tumultuous story, the saga of a well-known family. Everything in a mirific landscape, as if drawn from fairy tales. Refinement and elegance are present everywhere here. The golden plasterwork, the Murano crystal chandeliers, the Carrara marble, the wall tapestry made of Lyon silk, all bear witness for the good taste and luxury of a rich epoch, when people knew to enjoy beauty and looked for it in all its manifestations. Inside the museum, we find two galleries. The Universal Art Gallery is well represented by valuable exhibits from all over Europe. The Romanian Art Gallery exhibits works of Theodor Aman, Țuculescu, Ștefan Lucian, up to the modern world of colors and shades. But the peak of the gallery is offered by Brâncuș's works. Worldwide known sculpture, Brâncuș enlisted Romanian art in universality, conferred value to the particular element, and started a dialogue with the great artistic languages of the world. Another wealthy family financed the building of Vorvoranu House, one more representative edifice of Craiova. Its architect, Dimitrie Maimarolu, was well known in his time for his military circle palace and the Patriarchy Palace in Bucharest. The facade ornaments stand out for their high aesthetic refinement, and the inside ceilings, painted by Francis Tribaldi, witness many balls and parties of Craiovian noble elites. The architectural style is also French, from the Renaissance period. Craiovians have always known how to honor their heroes and personalities that made history, to pay their homage and be grateful. The statue of Romania's greatest king, Carol I, inaugurated at the beginning of 2008, seems to guard over the city ever since. Education has a long history in this city. The former Justice Palace, now the main building of the university, is another symbolic building for the city. It was designed in 1890 by Ion Socolescu and illustrates successfully the neoclassic style. This university teaches students in varied fields according to the present-day requirements and exigencies. The academic offer includes university studies, post-graduation studies, master and doctor degrees, being among the first 5 in the country. Carol I National College is the second oldest Romanian school in our country. Set up in 1826, the college has won the reputation of first-rank educational institution at national level for almost 2 centuries. Famous scientists, politicians and artists studied here. The present-day building dates from 1895, being called back then Craiova's Jewel. Buzești Brothers National College has had as spiritual patrons Preda, Radu and Stroie Buzescu for 98 years, the 3 loyal supporters of Michael the Brave. The school was set up in 1882 under the name of Science Gymnasium, and since then it has remained as an educational center of high standards in teaching and education. Besides education, sport is an essential element for the people, an integral part of the modern education of youth. There have been made investments for ensuring an adequate infrastructure for various sport contests. The Municipal Sports Club being a perfect illustration for the efforts made in this respect. The mayor's house was designed by the famous architect Jan Minko and finished by his pupil Konstantin Yotso in 1916. This building is included now in the artistic and cultural patrimony, but in old times it hosted the commercial bank.